Our business executives say they look forward to better political governance as a means of increasing private sector participation in Africa's capital markets, which will help to integrate the many small and fragmented continental stock exchanges. This is according to the Chief Executive Officer of Seplat Petroleum Development, Austin Avuru, while speaking with Channel's business editor Bosun Omofaye at the ongoing Africa CEO Forum in Geneva. Mr. Avuru also speaks to the current regime of low oil prices and shares his oil firm's new strategies of doing business while focusing on how to use hydrocarbon resources for local industries.
The capital markets around the world practically are a reflection of the size of private capital in any economy. So, for instance, in Africa, the largest capital market naturally is in South Africa. And when you go around, when we were marketing our company for the IPO in 2014, the sheer size of investable funds we found in South Africa was like 10 times the rest of Africa outside Africa. If you take their public pension funds alone, there's $67 billion available for investment in sub-Saharan Africa, and that's out of South Africa. If you look at all the equity funds and all the funds available for investment, that's what defines the size of any capital market. Again, if you look at all the conversations, especially at plenary today, the emphasis has been on governance, proper governance that will create enabling environments for capital inflow, for the private sector participation in all the economies of the African countries, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in extractive industries, whether it's even in education or healthcare. And once you start to expand capital inflow and expand the ability of private sector funds to go into any economy, you then start to expand the size of the capital markets of such countries.
When you talk about governance, are you talking about political governance, or are you looking at governance at a corporate level?
Political governance, because the host country must create an enabling environment for capital inflow, for survival and for survival and flourishing of the private sector. You listen to Mo Ibrahim today, all of his discussion was about the quality of governance. He says that all other things, the economic structure in any country, those are outputs of governance. And he says that governance, which must lead to proper rule of law, proper judiciary that is trusted, safety of human beings and materials and property, infrastructural development and education. Those are outputs of good governance. You see, we always look at them as if those are the structural things that must be addressed. But once good governance is addressed and the enabling environment and proper policies are in place, these outputs will take place and you start seeing an expansion of the economy through a major injection of private capital.
If you look at your company, for example, do you see opportunities across Africa where you could do more business as more countries in Africa are discovering hydrocarbon, oil and gas across frontiers in West Africa and East Africa? Do you think these are there are issues there and opportunities that you want to take advantage of?
Yes. For us, we're starting with Nigeria as our seed host country. And building one of the key reasons we listed on both exchanges, in particular on the London Stock Exchange, is to enable us create the governance structure within the company that is necessary to drive proper business expansion across the continent or outside of Nigeria. What you need is proper governance structure. And when you are regulated by the UKLA and the London Stock Exchange, there are minimum standards of transparency and reporting. And that's what we've created in the past 6 years in Seplat. And with that as a foothold, we can expand our business into any part of the world because we're already operating to international standards.
Right now, oil prices are recovering, and you likely be one of those smiling and perhaps happy that there's a bit of a recovery in commodity prices. How are you leveraging the current new environment of new oil prices, but still some challenges within the industry, locally and globally, to move Seplat Petroleum element forward?
You know, Bosun, we in Seplat are defining recovery differently. Recovery for us is not just oil price moving from sub $40 to $55 and $60. Recovery means entrenching low-cost production. so that at all times, at all prices, you can do business. Recovery for us means functioning infrastructure, pipeline evacuation infrastructure in Nigeria. Recovery means policies that will enable you to make adjustments no matter the oil price. So for us in Seplat, when we look at long-term prosperity, recovery, when we plot our graph or tick our boxes for recovery, oil price is the last on the list. The other softer issues that will enable you remain in business, whether prices were high or low, are the critical things we're looking at. And we took advantage of this last 18 months of low oil prices to then ask ourselves, so if prices remain at $40, are we going to run out of business? We will not. So for us, recovery is addressing the issues that will make you remain in business at all oil prices.
There are some who believe that commodity will remain a major turnaround ingredient for many African countries. We've seen commodity bust in the last 1, 2, 3 years, and that countries with commodities, whether it's solid minerals or hydrocarbon, will remain part of the game changer for Africa's new economic direction. What's your view on this?
But you see, that was the core of the discussion. That was where Mo Ibrahim disagreed with everybody this morning. Because you're right, you tie Africa's boom and bust with commodities boom and bust, unfortunately. And the new thinking, and earlier when I was talking about governance, it is meant to change this whole boom and bust mentality around commodities. So we should be thinking about commodities in terms of what do you do with the commodities and how do the commodities translate to economic boom, and not just commodities in terms of commodity times price equal to revenue. No. So particularly in Nigeria and in the West African sub-region, we in Seplat are championing the whole concept of domestic energy security. So for instance, if we produce 1 BCS of gas, 1 BCF of gas, it matters to us that it translates into 4 gigawatts of electricity. And 4 gigawatts of electricity will then power so many other things within the economy. If we refine as a country 1 million barrels of our 2 million barrel production per day, and we get it downstream to function well, the multiplier effects within the domestic economy are much more important. So the discussion is more about domestic food security, domestic energy security, propelled by good governance. And that's what your commodities will translate into. Once you keep looking at commodities as export materials just for revenue earning, we've got it wrong for the last 50 years. And the change is about commodities being enablers and not commodities just being revenue earners.
For you at this forum, are you just oiling old relationships, or are you looking for new ones? And if yes, where are you looking at?
You know, one of the key things I benefit from these international fora is to look around globally at how things are done elsewhere, even in your line of business, or even outside your line of business. What is the thinking? Where does the application of technology come in? Where does financing come from? Where does it go to? What do all of this translate to? If you get caged into your narrow environment back home, without realizing, without the full big picture knowledge of how business is done around the world, you may never really make the sustainable progress that you ask for your company. And that's what I benefit, that's what I really enjoy in fora like this. The discussion at plenary today was very interesting, listening to the Egyptian telecoms mogul and listening to Mo Ibrahim. They have a big picture approach to development in Africa, starting from the basics. And that's why Mo kept talking about governance that would then translate into all the other factors that will lead to economic growth.
And after the break, a focus on the Nigerian economy as the MPC meeting ends today. Do stay with us.